I've been a realtor for almost 20 years. I have been married for over 27 years, and I have 5 children.
How do you follow that? I follow that with her mic. Afternoon, everybody. How you doing? Thanks for being here. I'm Billy Mandarino. I am a realtor, real estate advisor with Engel & Volkers. It's on the back of the chair. And I've been there about 5 years, but I've been in real estate for 16. I own Mandarino Properties. It's a property management company, residential management company, Montecito, Hope Ranch, Santa Barbara. Also what I call a real estate agent. I've toured the world giving talks kind of like this to help realtors get out of the stress, the overwhelm, the worry of getting that next listing, of getting that next buyer, of how to kind of get out of your own way and use maybe more subjective techniques opposed to the objective techniques that you're all used to. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Jan, take it away.
Well, Billy's also the author of a book called the Now-ist, so that fits right into his core values. Jan Finley, I'm with Sotheby's. I've been with Sotheby's for 6 years now. And I've lived in Santa Barbara for 37 years. 6 of those years I was Steve's right-hand business partner on the Radius Group team doing commercial real estate, multifamily. And I really, really enjoyed it. And then the downturn hit and we both said, I'm not driving down to Santa Barbara anymore. I went to work in the Valley, and I've been to in 2007 I moved to the Valley. 2008 I started working up there. And so with my life here and now my life there, I've worked in both places by referral only for my clients. A license for over 20 years, 6 years, I already told you that. Grateful for my 42 years of marriage, thank God.
Well, each summer.
Yeah, and 3 kids and 6 grandkids, 1 on the way, and my 93-year-old mother. It's awesome. And all of my kids live in Santa Barbara. They think there's no other place to live. I've tried, but they want to say, thank you.
Hello, Randy Glick with Berkshire Hathaway. I've probably done deals with most of you guys over the years, looking around the room. A lot of familiar faces. I've been doing this for about 35 years. Doesn't feel like it, but it has been. And it's an amazing place to do it. Let's face it, like if you can do it here, probably the best place in the world to do it. So plan to keep doing it for a while, see what happens.
All right, thanks guys. So now we're going to dive into the question and answer portion of the event. Our topic today is how to be a listing agent here in this community. And so we start with some general questions, and the first question is, what are the 3 most important things to do to set yourself up to be a successful listing agent in this community? And I think I'll start all the way on the end with Randy.
I think the number one thing that came to mind when I thought about this is sort of what happens to me when my business slows down.
We are having lots of mic problems.
You're fine.
Thank God COVID's over, right? Basically, I think to become a listing agent, there's 2 things that have to happen. One is mentally, you have to prepare yourself to be a listing agent. My son got in the business. He's been in the business about 5 years. The first 4 years he was in the business, he worked almost always with buyers. I mean, it's the one thing as a new agent you can do. I think as an experienced agent, you get caught in that trap a little bit too, because buyers are fairly easy to pick up if you're out there talking to people, holding open houses, doing that sort of thing. And for me, I had to make the commitment that I wasn't going to work with a lot of buyers. I still do work with some buyers, but as you guys know, buyers, there's levels of buyers. Right? There's a 10 who's the buyer is like, I'm in a 1031 exchange and I have 2 weeks to buy a house, right? And then there's the buyer who's like, well, when my uncle dies, and then my aunt would get the money, but she's promised that she would give us the down payment. You're like, Okay, great. How old's your uncle? He's 42, he's in great health. You're like, maybe this isn't really a good fit. I mean, because the truth is, as an agent, the number one thing you have is your time. We're salespeople, and I mean, it's great to do. We do a lot of stuff in the community. I mean, I know, I look around the room, I know all of you guys are involved with a lot of things, and that's an amazing thing, but you only have so many hours in the day. You know, my thought is always, I don't necessarily want to work 80 hours a week. I did that at one point. Those days are over. You know, I want to work 30 hours a week and keep my volume at a certain level. And so far I've been able to do it, but it's one of those things where you have to make the commitment that you want to be a listing agent. The second thing is, and this is true for almost probably any sales business, the more people you talk to, the more business you're going to do. So the hardest part, I mean, if everybody could do it, everybody would do it. It's really hard to be committed to scheduling yourself to get on the phone or knock on doors or however you like to do it, but probably the number one thing you can do is pick up the phone. When my business slows down a little bit, I start making phone calls. The next thing I know, I've got 3 listing appointments and, you know, two people that want to buy duplexes. It is a communications business, and the more you're forefront with people, the more they start. Everybody's very interested in real estate, so they like talking to you. So you just have to talk to more people.
Yes, as a new as a new agent, I would do everything I could do to get involved in the community. And whether it's the Heart Association, American Cancer Society, that we have how many, 2,000 nonprofits here in Santa Barbara, but pick one that resonates with you, and that's what I did at the beginning of my career. Also worked on a successful team, I believe. If you really want to be successful, you get onto a team. And you learn how that team does it. And working with Steve Golis, I wrote contract after contract after contract, negotiation in the height of the market in the multifamily industry. So that taught me a lot about negotiations and people and industry buyers. So get on the team. If you get on the team, if you don't have that level of book of business, get on the team and work with the team and learn it. So there's 2 things. What else? Oh, and let everybody you know that you're in real estate now. So start a campaign with your postcards, your letters, a party for all your primary sphere, and just get the word out that you're in the business.
Great, thank you.
So you gotta take me with a grain of salt sometimes, because I am the real estate agent. So what I have to offer today is very much out of the box. You're going to hear a lot of common ideas in here. In my experience, 16 years of experience of selling real estate, before that, other things, building properties with my family, it always came down to, could I add more value than the other agents? We're not in competition here. As Randy said, it's a small community. As Jan said, it's a small community. There's 1 degree of separation, and you all know that. So how do you add more value than the other agents, your competitors? I don't look at it as competition. I look at it as just giving greater levels of service. So to become a better listing agent, you have to figure out how to add more value to this community with 1 degree of separation. How do you do that? Well, we're all 1 degree apart. Realtors, I think, are half a degree apart. Because there's what, 1,200 of us, I think, right? So 1,200, 1,800 of us.
Over 1,300.
Yeah, 13, thank you, Summer. Over 1,300 of us now. I don't know if it's growing or shrinking, but how do you add more value and how do you get out in the community? So they both touched on it. Thank you, you're absolutely right. How can you be of service in this community and not ask for a thank you? How can you not get even your name on the sponsorship? There's this crazy thing. Once again, get ready for it. Here comes the crazy subjective teaching. There's this thing called the law of attraction. Whatever you put out in the world will come back to you. Your imagination is the greatest gift you've ever been given. I have sold so many properties. I've closed so many deals, put so many tenants in properties by visualizing them in there before it even finished. Before I go to bed, I would see that house sold. I would imagine the family in that property. It was Christmas. I would imagine where the tree is going. I would smell the smells of homemade food and the family and the feelings. When I would take a new listing, I would add more value to that experience than most other agents because I was thinking outside the box. Once again, I'm going to give you ideas that you're not used to hearing. Not that I think I'm special, but I'm just telling you from my experience of being in this community for 28 years and being married to my beautiful wife for 28 years Friday. We got married at the Old Mission. I fell in love with her and Santa Barbara at the same time. I just have this feeling of connection to this community, which we all have because we're all 1 degree apart. But how can you do something that's different? How can you approach a transaction, a client, a customer? How do you give service to people that's different? It has to speak to you. I just made a new friend, Josh May at Keller Williams, as we walked through the door. He's been in the business for a year. I think, how does Josh May get into this community? He's brand new. There's 1 degree of separation. It's very tough to break into. But I guarantee if Josh can figure out how to add more value from his heart, give to this community, it already has 2,000 nonprofits. You have to find something that speaks to you, to be of service in this community so people recognize you and they see you out in the community being kind, doing things that are different. I don't know if it's meeting somebody at the Friendship Center and reading to them, or helping the homeless person in the street, or going to the Unity shop and donating during Christmas. What speaks to your heart, that will come back to you. Once again, it's all an echo. It's all a boomerang. The law of attraction is never broken. What you put out there will come back to you in listings, in buyers, and in closed deals. That's been my experience, and that's what I encourage you all to try the end of this quarter and going into the new year. You have to do something fresh that speaks to you.
Thanks, Billy.
All right, well, there's not a lot left for me to discuss. So I think just building off of what they said, because obviously you've got to get that presentation, you've got to get that appointment, which is what they covered. But once you have that appointment, like, are you prepared? Are you going to show up at that appointment? Do you have listing materials already prepared well in advance? So if you get that call for tomorrow, do you know what you're going to say? Like, okay, you have your presentation. Do you know what you're going to say on that presentation? Do you know the neighborhoods? Do you know the comps? Do you go on Caravan or do open houses on the weekend? So you know when the homeowner says, yeah, that house that sold 3 streets over, you know, it had a horrible kitchen, or, you know, they ask you, what was the condition of that house? Are you going to be able to say, yes, I saw that house. This is how this house compares to your house. So once you have the appointment, you just have to go into that appointment really, really well prepared.
So I'm going to start with you this time, Summer, and you've already started talking about the topic, which is how do you differentiate yourself from other agents that your clients may be talking to or interviewing?
You know, every seller is different and they're all going to have different priorities. So I think trying to build a rapport with that seller is really important, and educate them. Personally, I know we're in the sales business, but I don't feel like a salesperson, or I don't ever want to come across as a salesperson when I'm with clients. So I would say trying to educate them on where the market's at, where values are at, what they can do to improve the house prior to listing the house. But just educating them, giving them options, making them feel like, and then like listening, right? So maybe they don't really care what the sales price is at the end of the day. They need to be out in 30 days, or they want less hassle. So I think it's educating and listening to them so that you have a connection with them and they trust you, because this is a huge financial commitment for them.
I'm going to share something my grandfather told me that I always try to remember and have a hard time remembering, which is God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Supposed to listen twice as much as I talk. I think that's following up on what you said. Billy?
Sage advice, yes. So I just closed a transaction down in Oxnard in the Harbor Island area for my family. And I worked with an agent down in Calabasas named Jeff Adler. And he was all excited because he got a $30 million listing he's only been in the business 4 years, competing against these ballers, these agents that have been doing incredible numbers for years in the Sherwood area. I don't know Calabasas that well, but I was just impressed. I said, Jeff, how did you do it? He says, Bill, he's a great salesperson, because that's another thing I want. Maybe another tip would be double down on your self-education. Read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Find sales books that speak to you. Work on psychological books. The art of selling, it's the art of persuasion. It's not getting some malicious intent through. It's about how you connect energetically with this client? How do you connect energetically? How do you be honest? Jeff was so brutally honest with this seller that had seen every incredible presentation, beautiful books, and all the slideshows, and he beat out 6 other agents in that area for this property, but he was just, I'm gonna work harder than any of them. I'm gonna treat this house like it's the only listing I have. He's a great salesperson because he understood the truth of authenticity. If they feel you're authentic in that listing appointment, you differentiate yourself instantly. And you can do that by doubling down on your knowledge, by your self-knowledge, by dive deep into good books that can help you learn that art of persuasion sales. I mean, a lot of these are veteran salespeople, you all know how to sell. But I think we can get complacent on just our style, our techniques, because you have to constantly be learning. And I drink deeply of good books, and if you read them enough and you listen to them enough on your Audible, they become part of who you are. And it just naturally comes out. Jeff Adler, I think he's got an offer on this thing already. He's only had it for 3 months, and I was just blown away. Somebody's passion was so deep that it overrode the classic sales pitch of these veteran agents down in Calabasas.
Cool. I would say just listen, and there's a book called Just Listen, as Summer and Billy mentioned. Listening is the #1 key for them to know that you're trustworthy. And sometimes that's a hard thing for me to just listen, because I want to share all my ideas about their property, right? And I've always done my business by referral. I can't think of the last time I did a listing presentation. So I got a lot of work to do in that area, but everything I've done is word of mouth. So how do I differentiate yourself? You give the best service to that client, and you say, I'm going to give you the best service. So if you have anybody else that needs my service, please think of me. And just knock their socks off. Be authentic, be yourself, know your core values, and use your life's experiences. And as you find out more about them and listening to them, you can relate to them on some of those experiences. So it's that building of trust. And again, I believe strongly in the referral, working by referral, because that's why I'm never under the gun and really never competing for listings. But I've hired a team because we're going to get very competitive. Not competitive, but we need to do more. So anyway, Randy.
A lot of what they've said is incorporated into this as well. A lot of times when I'm going on a listing appointment, I'll get there a couple minutes early, or in my case, maybe a couple minutes late, but I want to sit for a second and remind myself, what does this guy want to hear? You know, what, again, kind of what Robert was saying too, you know, I want to listen more. I start remembering that the best way to get people to get on your side is to ask enough questions. And I think a lot of times I walk out of the listing appointment and I feel like I've talked for an hour. And I always know that that's the wrong, I know when I get to the car, sometimes I get the listing, but the truth is what you want is your client to talk for an hour. You want to just ask the right questions. So sometimes just remembering that when you go in, that you're here to do a service, to, you know, be a professional, but also to hear what they need. And if you're talking the whole time, it's very hard to do that.
Thank you, guys. Next slide. What do you do to market yourself as a listing agent as opposed to as a buyer's agent? And let's start in the middle with you, Jim.
Well, open houses on your own listings, to be there. #1, first, I, as a real estate advisor, I partner with my sellers on offering staging and design. And I'll work with the designer and the stager. I also come from Nordstrom, so where every detail matters. So I'll work with them, and I love to work with those that want to work alongside of me and necessarily don't want a stager in their house at first. I'll go with them, and together we make changes in the house they're happy with, and then I'll bring the stager in. And then just knock the socks out of people at your open houses. And then all the neighbors come. And the neighbors meet you and they say, oh, could you do this for my house too? So To me, it is making that open house shine, how you market that property, the photos, being a little bit different. I just don't like being boilerplate, sending out a boilerplate, this is my listing, it's open today, or a brand new listing. Be a little bit creative with think outside the box with some of the things the property offers. And that'll get people's interest up and they'll all come and see it. So fun open houses, the neighbors come and visit you, have a party for the neighborhood at the house. Sometimes sellers will do that, sometimes they won't, but that's another option for you.
Billy, take a different perspective.
Here it comes, get ready.
It's gonna be different.
It's gonna be different. Thank you. No, these guys are veterans. You know a lot of these wonderful ideas that you're gonna hear today. A lot of them intuitively, you might know them, but that's the thing I think that we miss. We don't use our intuition to get listings, to get buyers, to sell property. Your intuition is one of the greatest gifts you've been given as well. So when you want to market something differently, you have to go with the passion or the inspiration you feel in your gut, an idea that comes to you right before you go to bed, because you're going to market. A lot of us have the same tools. So there's Resora, there's the MLS, there's everything that we have out there. The technology is phenomenal. But how do you use your subjective attention? How do you use your intuition to do that thing that nobody else did? Whether it's corny things like making cookies or door knocking or going around the neighborhood and sending them a gift, or do something that inspires you to set yourself apart from the other agents. Your intuition, your inspiration, I don't think it's used enough in our business because there's an impression, I guess, that we make a lot of money, we don't do a lot of work. I've been beat up a lot lately, it seems. People say, how do you make all this money? How do you consistently, are you at the top of your company? How do you do that? I just continually give service from a place of my heart. I don't really think about how I can make more money. I'm just thinking, how can I serve consistently? But I only serve after my inspiration because it's fleeting. If you have a goal, I mean, this is hard to hear. I speak at a lot of high schools, middle schools for the last 10 years, career days. They always have me speak in real estate. But every time the teacher's there at the podium, I say, okay, kids, I don't believe in setting goals. There's like a gasp in the room. And then even with Engel and Volkers, they want to go to the beginning of the year, and they want to find out how many properties are going to sell, what are my goals, and it's crazy to say, but when you can use the power of your imagination with your intuition, with your inspiration, what gets you up in the morning, has you stay late at night, feeling, how can I be of service, how can I do something that's different, how can I do something that's sustainable, that's passionate to me? Oh, somebody didn't like to hear that. How can I do something that's just me, authentically me? And when you come across with that, however you market, list, a door knock, however you put yourself out in this really small community of 100,000 people, that is going to have like a wildfire, bonfire effect, and it's going to completely exponentially grow. And Josh May, to talk to you again, your first listing, and you set your flag on this city, and you're doing something that's authentically you, and inspired by you, and you love it, you're passionate, it'll sustain, then exponentially it will grow. And that Josh May guy from Keller Williams, oh my God, he did this thing, and no one else has done that. That's the only way I can't think of a mechanical way to list better. I can only go with my passion because I wake up in the morning inspired to serve every day. And I believe we're all in the service business. It's not so much about being number one, in my opinion, it's about how can I add more value through my servant heart. And at the end of the day, I go to bed feeling like, wow, I made a difference in somebody's life.
I got one.
Oh, it works.
I traded. I don't market any differently for listings versus for buyers. I don't know, the question kind of confused me because as agents, you want to market yourself, and sometimes it's going to be that you're going to get a buyer, sometimes it's going to be that you're going to get a seller. So however, we're going to touch on marketing later, but on however you're marketing, put yourself out there, because if you get a buyer and you sell them a home tomorrow, in 2 years and 5 years and 20 years, they're going to sell that home, and then you will become a listing agent. So I would say, especially if you're a new agent, take a buyer, take a listing, take anything you can get, because eventually, it's all about networking, like we've talked about. So if you're out there networking with your buyer, out there networking with your seller, you're constantly meeting more people, and that's what you need. You need to get in front of people.
Randy, you want to bring this on?
Bring it on, Randy.
Pretty simple. Somehow, some way, go get a listing. sell that house, and tell everybody about it. The next one will show up. I know it's hard in the beginning, but I'll say this too. A lot of times when I've talked to younger agents who have amazing personality, have amazing things going for them, it's their belief that they're not good enough yet. And the truth is, the seller doesn't know. You know, just by being around the real estate game or going on Caravan or sitting in your office meetings or whatever you do, you know 10 times more than almost every other seller out there. There's a lot of people that know transactions, or they know what they do. They might be a really amazing attorney, but we're in the real estate business. We're dealing with this stuff every day. You know, that's, I think, one of the things we bring to the table that we almost don't give ourselves enough credit for, is that we can juggle so many plates. You know, when there's an issue with the hillside, how many people have Adam Simmons in their phone and he'll answer the phone when they call? Actually, he won't answer the phone, you have to text him, but we all know that. We all know he's not gonna show up with a report till about 2 minutes after the deal is closed. But the bottom line is, you have so many resources because either you or people in your office know how to get this done. It's an art, it's a profession, that's what we do.
Next slide. So, what are homeowners here looking for most in real estate? What have you heard? How is this different from different price points in the market? We have a very wide variety from under $1 million to over $100 million. Talk about this a little bit, and I think this time we'll start with Billy.
Yes, thank you. This question is for Gary Goldberg, who I'm filling in for. But he's not here, so I'm going to answer it the way I feel inspired to answer it.
Gary canceled last night because his wife had an emergency surgery, so he apologizes. If any of you know Gary, give him a call, wish him well, wish his wife well. He wanted to be here. He's going to come to another event, but he couldn't make it. Billy was kind.
I prayed for him last night and his wife. So yes, how do homeowners here looking for the most in the listing?
What are they looking for?
What are they looking for most in a listing agent? Wow. See, once again, I hate to hammer the same question, but in this small city, Brandy Glick, Jan Finley, Summer Night, they're brands. You're brands. We're not marketing. They're a brand. Jay-Z says, I'm the businessman, meaning Jay-Z is the business. He's not in the business, he is the business. You are all individually a brand. Yes, I work for England & Volkers. My license is hung there. I also own Mandarino Properties. I'm a property manager. So most of my listings come from my property management business, not because it's low-hanging fruit, because I give a level of service where I don't have any competition. I don't say that to be braggadocious. I just am always coming from, how can I double down on my service? How can I add so much value that when they compare me to somebody else, it's not like I'm proud of it or telling them, hey, pick me because I'm number one. It's because their experience speaks to their heart. Like, this guy is following through, he's doing things that I've never experienced before. I mean, that sets me apart ultimately because I'm just being authentically myself. I think in this business of massive competition, in a market that's becoming very transitionary, I guess you all would agree right now, and you have to do something that's different. And what about just being the best you can be? It sounds a little campy, maybe a little woo-woo. That's my lane. But I just know in my experience, 16 years as a property manager, my father is a brilliant architect and a builder. I've been raised around it. It's in my blood. You have to love it so much. Like Randy was saying, you have to be so much yourself and into being the best person you can be in the transaction, in the closing, finishing up. The one thing most people miss, I think, is after the close, right? How do you continue to give service after the close? We got our check. Myself, I just personally connect with people. I'm not a big email guy, believe it or not. I get a ton of emails, but I just believe in the art of picking up that phone and calling people. People want to hear your voice. They don't want to get a text. They don't want to get an email. They want to hear that authentic vibration that's moving their body, in their head, coming across the phone. If you can do that this year, 2023, change the way you do business by just being more authentically yourself and just watch how many more sales you close in 2023.
Summer?
I think sellers are different. So you're going to get the engineering type who wants all the facts and the figures and the comps and the numbers, and if I sell my house for this much, how much am I going to net? And then you're going to get the buyers or sellers who are just want the education, right? They want to feel heard, they want to be understood. So I have a listing recently, and I won the listing over 2 other agents, and they said that they felt I understood the vision that they had for their house. So it wasn't about facts and figures, it was about that rapport building. And sometimes sellers just need help, and there's things we can help them with our connections. It's like giving back. So another listing, elderly people, and the son is trying to move them out and coordinate cleaning and emptying the house, and the painting and the staging and the carpet cleaning and the window cleaning and the landscaping. And I could just foresee this taking like another year. And so I was like, okay, you get them out and I will handle everything else. Like, they're gonna pay the bills and I will give them estimates, but they just needed that extra reassurance, and that they just needed that taken off of their plate, so they could proceed. So sometimes it's just that we've got to put ourselves out there and add more value to our service. We're not just selling the house, we're helping them get to the point where they can sell the house.
And really talking about providing extra service. That's great. Andy?
Really, when you go on a listing appointment, in a way it doesn't even matter what the price range is. The bottom line is the seller wants to know 3 things. What you can sell his house for, how you're going to do it, and how long it's going to take. And you can take 2 hours to get those answers out, and you can take 2 minutes to get them out. So the thing is, in the back of your head, you need to know going in that those are probably the 3 most important things. Again, there could be other things, and the way you're going to find that out is by asking a lot of questions. And so, again, when you start by asking questions, all of a sudden you'll hear something like Summer heard, which was, I need to get my parents out, and then I got to get the house put together. What's amazing is we do this stuff all the time. I can't tell you, Carmen and I listed this house out in Goleta. We walked in, it was wall-to-wall crap. I mean, excuse the expression, but she wasn't a hoarder. She was a super sweet lady, but she had way too much stuff. And it was like, we knew to get her the most money for the house, what we had to do was get her stuff out and get the house cleaned up, partially remodeled, like paint, flooring, that sort of stuff, and then put it on the market. And sure enough, we had the ability and know how to do that, which is amazing, because I don't know that I could do that in my own house. But I've got enough people in my phone that I've done this stuff with many times. I mean, again, I think it's one of the magical things that we do. Like, yeah, you're a real estate agent, but you're also a interior designer, and again, it might not be that you know how to do it, but you have the resources to do it. And most people don't. I can't tell you how many times I've shown up at a listing and you walk in, they're like, well, I can't let you in the front door because that lock doesn't work, so we never use it. And I'm like, well, when I go to show your house, I have to bring people in through the front door. Like, it usually doesn't work to bring them in through the basement, right? Like, so, you know, and my handyman's over there within 20 minutes, but they've lived with it that way for 3 years, you know? Like, it's really funny. People are kind of stuck. They need us. And we've gotten good at providing that service.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Yes, it's telling them stories about how you did this for other people. For example, we called on a home that was, now this is one that wasn't a referral. I used to cold call in commercial real estate, so I said, pick up the phone. And I called them and I said, you know what, we can do a few things, cheap and cheerful things to that home, and we're gonna get way over your asking price. So he listened to me, he listened to the designer, and boom, we were on there. We did our work. He did what he needed to do, and we did our work, and sure enough, we got, and it had been on the market for a long time. You have to be an agent that will show them what they need to do and not be shy. You have to be honest and say, you know, this house is not, it's an average house. Average houses right now are not selling very quickly unless you have a really nice price for it. But if you want this and you can't get this, we'll show you a few plans what you can do to make this house desirable to the buyer. So that's how we got those listings, and then that will pass on to their friends and their friends. So by showing them how you're going to add value to that house without costing them a huge amount of money. And there's so many programs for this, and we have all these people in our Rolodexes. So, but I do see a difference between the millennials. Millennials might go on, they might see a really cute real estate agent on TikTok, or somebody's doing, I mean, I've seen this. I was selling a house and they saw the lender on, brand new lender on Instagram. Boom, she's the lender for the buyer. And so millennials are different. So I'm going to bring in the digital world. We have to, the thank you notes, you can't stop that. The thank you notes every day, the phone calls, the letters, the client parties, but you have to be digital too. If you want to grow or expand your business outside of your own sphere. So I really believe in, you know what, I don't like putting myself on TikTok all the time. And, well, I'm not on TikTok. I think I did one, but I hired somebody to do TikTok.
Okay, now we have a series of business questions. I'm going to take a little poll. Does anybody want to take a little break and go get some wine before we do business questions? You guys said yes. Just go out, get yourself some wine. We get you. And we'll go ahead and start, but don't worry about it. Not in the wine. You'll have to. What are some of the tools you use to scale your business, James? Let's start with this one.
Well, number one, get a coach. I just hired a coach. I worked with Randy back in 2001. I started as Diana Bull's technology director. I left Nordstrom as their store information. I was going to come and teach all these guys how to get out the MLS books, right, into technology. And I watched Randy and Dan Bechtel close themselves in the office and call. Remember that? Because they were getting a coach. So coaches are very important, especially if you're going to have a team. If you're not getting coaching, how can you inspire your team? So I have to admit and confess that I'm not always hiring coaches. I've read books, I attend Inman, I attend every learning venue you can to learn more about real estate. But you've got to hire a coach if you're going to really expect a lot of growth. So that's one thing that I think is necessary. And you have to be accountable, and that's not always comfortable. And I've seen people hire a coach, they're not very successful because they don't stick to the plan. And as painful as it is, I don't like being a salesperson either, right? But I've got to pop by and say, hey, it's hot today, here's some waters, I just wanted to come by and say hi. That, along with the new technology, you know, link you. We're hit with this stuff all the time. It's too much stuff. So I've decided, I've audited the past 3 weeks, audited all this stuff, finding out what's important in the digital world. But it is systems. It is systems. I bet you that every successful top real estate agent in Santa Barbara has great systems. So get great systems in place and get a coach.
We're not talking about leverage here.
Leveraging yourself, yes.
You like that?
No, it's coming. I've had a coach for 20 years. So when Jan brings that up, I believe in it. There's been many times when they've helped me do transactions that I probably wouldn't have done on my own. So I believe in coaching. But I also believe in surrounding yourself with incredible people. I hired Carmen Well, we decided to work together about 3 or 4 years ago. She's an amazing person. She's an incredible person to be around every day, and she's remarkable at her business. So, you know, again, I got very lucky to find her, and we have an assistant, Madison, who's amazing. Like, how can I help? Like, she's almost too nice to my clients. I mean,
She needs
and
to
they, yeah, it's true. Because I walk in, I'm like, the price is too high. You know, the business is interesting. It's an incredible business to be in, but what's kind of dawning on me now is the last 2.5 years, a lot of the training that I've had over the years, I didn't need to use. Because I'd walk into some guy's house and he'd be like, I want $3 million for my house, and I'd be like, that's fine, where do you want to sign? And either the house would sell right away, or they'd get 6 offers and it would go for 3, 4. You know, I mean, that's the last 2.5 years what our business has been like. I don't think it's that way anymore right now. So it's kind of going back to some of the things I've learned over the years about having to price things right again, and do the right things to get a house ready for sale. You can't, it's not going to be as easy as it was, but it's okay. We all know how to do this stuff. We just have to kind of train ourselves to go back to it.
So when I thought about this question, I thought about like actual tools that I find useful. Flow plan, like it's been out there for a little while. I think most people use it. The other day I was wrapping up Caravan at one of my listings, and I don't know, somehow it came up. And these agents were like, we've never used it. Like, how do you use it? And I'm like, whip out my phone. I'm like, watch, it's so easy. You can get a floor plan for $12.99, I think it is. I don't know why every agent doesn't have one on every listing. Like, you should be doing that. Yeah.
They take it home and they study it, they think about where they're going to put their furniture. It's cool.
And sellers are impressed. Maybe it'll help you get a listing. Also, our title companies, they have apps for your phone or for your iPad, so you can pull up property information on that property, on the neighbor's property. They have apps for closing costs. Your seller says, well, you know, this is, if I get $1 million for my house, how much am I going to net? And then you can easily send them a sheet that has escrow and title and your commission and all that information on there. Another app I find really useful is a mortgage calculator app, because people will be like, well, you know, how much is my payment going to change if I offer this much or that much, or if the interest rate changes? And I just have an app on my phone. I'm like, okay, let's put all the numbers in, and here it is. And the last one, I just started using it, and it's a website, and you guys all probably already use it, and I'm behind the times, but Canva, like if you need to create something for a listing, like a spec sheet on upgrades or something, I don't know. I just discovered it, and I find it really useful. Templates on there, so you don't have to create it all yourself, unless you have an office that does that for you. I don't, but I like Canva.
Really, something tells me you're not going to talk about how.
Spoiler alert. No, actually, I'm going to talk about video. How do you do video? Video, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Video is the #1 form of engagement right now across all social media platforms, and it's not going away. So I know Instagram, you know, stories, doing lives. I mean, video is really important because they get to see you, they get to hear you. You look at the little dot. Don't look at your screen. Look into the lens of that camera. I know everyone's not comfortable on video, but video is huge. So if you're not using video to get your message out there, to get your service out there, but here's how you use video. I've been doing video for the last 5 years. I did a video every day for 2 years and did not miss a 1-minute video because it supported my teaching. I wrote a book called the Now-ist, which teaches people how to get out of stress, to live in the present moment. But here's the thing. People got to know me for my service in the community, speaking at middle schools, high schools, speaking at Career Day. And then they would see these videos, not that they subscribed to me, but maybe the kids heard about me because I was on Instagram or one of those platforms. But it came back to me because I was just thinking, how can I serve people? And they would see my face every day for 1 minute, speaking about 1 minute in the now. And it helped grow my real estate business because they saw me consistently. So maybe don't always talk about real estate, but post a video every week about something you're passionate about so they get to know you. But of course, hopefully you have your information about your channel and it's about your brokerage and it talks about how you give service in this community. Also podcasts. I've been on about 50 podcasts speaking about my book, but real estate always gets worked in because I'm a real estate agent. So it's a way of branding, is once again, as Jay-Z said, I am a businessman, not in a gregarious, vainglorious way, but you are the brand. You are giving service to these people as a personality, as a soul, as a servant heart in this community. And if you can get in videos, get on a few podcasts, and just watch how people kind of find you and engage with you in a different way that maybe you weren't used to before. Step outside the norm.
Thank you. Other dead mic. You guys really need to change your battery.
This one's hot.
Okay, this one's hot too. Okay, do you believe cold calling, door knocking, social media, video marketing, or SEO is most effective? This should be pretty straightforward. Let's start with, I'm starting with everybody at least once. How about Randy, do it for it?
Again, I'm old school because I've been doing this a while, but truthfully, I'm not sure anybody's ever sold a house through social media. But have you? Okay. Times are changing. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing that stuff, but I promise you, if you lock yourself in your office and make 20 calls a day for the next 3 months, you will have more business than you can do in January, February, and March than you've ever seen. And the truth is, it's really hard to do it. Like she was talking about 20 years ago, I was doing a lot of that. I mean, I had a person that held me accountable to making those 20 calls, and we give each other checks for $10,000, and if I didn't do it, he would cash my check. And guess what? I didn't want to give him 10 grand. And he didn't want to give me 10 grand. So we'd call each other at 11 o'clock and report in if we'd done our 20 calls, and if I hadn't, I sat there until I got them done. So I know that works. Like I said, my son's in the business in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He does this amazing thing called Home Tip Tuesdays, and he's so good at it. But I don't know if he's going to sell houses from that. I mean, he gets people to watch it, but I'm not sure it's the best way to do it. I know that prospecting works because I've done it for 25 years, and I just know it works. So I think again, it's not easy. I would tell you to get a partner and try and practice together, or stick yourselves in an office at the same time and not leave until you do what you were planning to do. So I think more than anything on that screen, that would be the one thing I would tell you to do.
And then I have a question just for everybody. Are you cold calling people, or are you calling your contacts?
For me, most of it is past clients and contacts because that's where I do the most business. But I'll say this too. It doesn't hurt, again, it's part of that thing I was saying before where most of the sellers when you call them and say, hey, we just sold 2 homes in your neighborhood, they don't know that you didn't do it, and chances are they're not going to ask, oh, who was the agent, right? They're going to think you were the agent. And even if they ask, who cares? No, it was Linda Lorenzen, it was Summer Night, it was whatever, it doesn't matter. But our company just sold 2 homes in your neighborhood. It's a reason to get on the phone with someone. It's hard to do. You get butterflies in your stomach, you have all these excuses where you have to go pick up the dry cleaning, and then the dog had his nails cut, and one of them was cut too short, and so now he's licking it, and I got to go take care of that. But The truth is, if you do that every day, I promise you, you'll be successful at whatever you're doing.
Jan?
Oh. Yes, I agree with Randy. I did see somebody once at a company, a brand new agent came in and she was just full of all these bubbling ideas, and
Sorry.
that broker told her, it wasn't me, I'm not speaking about me, broker told her, oh no, don't do that, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. Well, then we go to a conference at our company and we hear one of the top brokers speaking, and she said, yeah, I even built my business going door to door. So for me, it's whatever works for you. You be you. Don't be somebody else, you be you. And if cold calling works for you and you're good at it, cold call. By all means, call your primary sphere every day and keep rotating that, writing them notes, still thinking about you. Also, one thing that I'm going to implement, I have not done it yet, but have neighborhood parties for my neighborhood. You know, here's what's the latest on solar. Or do you want to know more about batteries and how much solar you need if you're going to plug your car in, and what kind of electricity you need in your house? Just start educating your neighbors. You can do that. People door knock. I saw an agent in my neighborhood door knocking, and sure enough, he got the listing down the street. So it all works, and it's all uncomfortable. But I think search engine optimization is huge, because a lot of people out of town, I mean, we've got out of town buyers. It's so frustrating for all of us, because people are paying to be best real estate agent in Santa Barbara. So all of those people paying them big bucks are popping up with these companies. So you've got to do something else besides, you've got to do the SEO. You have to do it and focus on it. And clean up your profile across, that's my issue. Clean up the profile of all platforms, clean it up. Be able to email them and tell them what's going on in the market. This week, this is how many days they're on the market now, because the market's switching. But we're getting too much of that too. I was sitting in the salon yesterday and I heard the hairdresser and her client speaking, yeah, this one agent keeps popping at the top of my, oh my God, I was just so tired of it on top of Facebook all the time. So I mean, don't blast everybody. Just be yourself. Pick a few things and do them well.
Social media, right? It's really one word. We say social media. There's social and there's media. And the problem is, out of this 3-year pandemic that we've gone through, everybody has been inundated. And I believe we have a pandemic of infobesity. We're obese with information. There's so much information out there, everybody's just overwhelmed. So social media just becomes this kind of negative buzzword. The social, we need to separate those two words. The social aspect of that is what you need to double down on, what you need to focus on. How can you connect with real people in a real way, not through social media? Yes, I have 10,000 followers across all my platforms, and it has served my business well across the board. With real estate, property management, the Now-ist teaching, the live events I do, all that serves it. But ultimately, what I've found post-pandemic is if you can connect to people in a real social way. If we were in New York or San Francisco or LA, I understand that Facebook's important, Instagram, all those ads that they run. But in this small town of 100,000 people, proper Santa Barbara, with 10,000 in Montecito, 90 in Santa Barbara, there's that 1 degree of separation again. How do you connect with people in a social setting, at an event, calling up people, cold calling? If you connect with people socially, forget the media part, like Randy said, you sit in a room and you talk to people and you're actually connecting with human people through a human voice, watch how your business changes in 2023 and the final part of this quarter. I just think the social media thing is just, it's kind of the pendulum is swinging back, I hope. But I've noticed in my own life, and our 16-year-old daughter who's in high school, and how that social media epidemic, I think, not to get political, but the pandemic of fear was more dangerous than the virus that we experienced. The fear, which is a palpable thing. But if you can connect with human beings in a social manner, watch how you can change somebody's experience through your energy, your positivity, the light in your smile, the love that comes out of your voice. Socially connect with people. Yes, I'm on a video, I'm all over those channels, but when it comes to giving service to people in a real visceral way, that's the brand, that's who I am. You just need to know who you are and Be more of that. Be more authentic yourself, and you won't need all of the SEO. You won't need all the platforms. It's just about, in this small town, once again, if you're in New York or San Francisco or in a big town, I understand, you're like a fish in this massive ocean, but here, we're kind of a smaller pond.
Summer, there you go.
So cold calling, door knocking, it's free, right? It doesn't cost you anything. You probably have time on your hands, so, and it's hard, it is hard, but right now, I mean, that's what I would suggest you do. Do something that is not gonna cost you any money. I wouldn't spend money on Facebook ads and anything like that personally. I don't really like social media. I post on social media because I feel this obligation to do it. But no one cares if you sold a house last month. Like, see how many likes you get when you post that. But if you post something about your kids or your community involvement or something that you do in your life, you're gonna get triple, quadruple the number of responses and likes. So use social media to let people know you're a realtor, but I think personally, if you just hammer everyone with that information, everyone's just gonna tune you out. So I would go with free stuff, and yes, do the social media, do the video marketing, but do the free stuff.
Okay, great. Let's see the next question. We've been at this for about an hour. I'm thinking that we've been at it for long enough with the question and answer period. So, first of all, let's give a round of applause to and I'd like to see a little bit of feedback. If you got at least one thing out of this discussion that you're going to use in your business, raise your hand. At least one thing. Okay, so well over half of it. If you got 2 or 3 things, put your hand up again. 2 or 3 things that you're going to use in your business. Again, well over half of them. That's really great. So thank you to all of you for your kind generosity, donating your time to help out. Really appreciate it. I know people will take this and put it to use, and I also know that it's going to up your game out there in the world. It's going to up our reputation as realtors because you're providing more value to your clients. And what we're really trying to do here with Agent Hustle Network is we're trying to increase our value to our community and stop, or at least have an argument for those clients who are trying to push back on us. Well, what are you doing that's worth $50,000? Why am I paying you so much, right? So that's what this is really all about. And if you would skip ahead to the end of the questions, we're not going to do the team growth stuff today. So this is an idea that I had after the last event. I thought that we would offer people the opportunity to share a listing, and I put it out there all over social media, every way that I could think of, and try to get people to send me photos. But the people that sent me photos are all sitting up here.
Except me.
So, you guys want to share your listings? We can do it. Here is Summers.
This is at the Winslow community. It's a great community. It's a shopkeeper's unit, so if you're not familiar with it, it's got a downstairs that you can actually rent out commercially, so you can use it commercially for yourself, or there's people in there who actually will rent out the space to somebody else, or you can use it like my clients are using it as an extra family room. There's a half bath down there, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath upstairs, turnkey, ready to go. $1,328,000. If you're interested in showing it, let me know.
Randy, are you going to present Randy's listing? Because Randy left.
I mean, Gary?
Randy's here, but the other Randy.
Oh, Randy
left.
Freed.
Randy Freed. This is Randy Freed's listing. Is anybody here to present Randy Freed's listing? Oh, over here, somebody. Ron? Hold on.
Robert Kemp, Berkshire Hathaway. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
This is really close to Eucalyptus Hill on the down slope of Alston Road. It's owned by a race car driver named Evan Collins. Deceptively large, light lots, really wide in the front and then kind of triangles to the back. Below the pool is a beautiful garden. I think it's 4 bedrooms, 4 baths. As you can see from the pictures, it's super, super clean. That garden down there is really magical. It has 2 storage units as well. profile is pretty close to the freeway. I didn't really, it didn't seem loud or anything like that. It was one of those houses where I was looking to see this, and I went and saw it. It was a really nice surprise. Told Randy I need to check.
I'll tell him that you're gonna collect. Your room fee.
This is my listing. It seems like a lot of you saw it because I had it open last week, and I saw a lot of people. There's a lot of people there. Single level house, pool, half acre, top of Garden Street, right where it enters into Constance. Was remodeled about 5 years ago. Big open floor plan. It's kind of what people want these days. So we've had pretty good success there already. So it's 4.2. 4.250. Yeah, we're in escrow. Yeah.
Okay, and despite the fact that you guys didn't send me photos, is there anybody out there that has a listing that they would like to talk about for a minute or two to the assembled realtors? Just raise your hand, I'll bring you a microphone. Okay, then we'll skip on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's next. Anybody that was here when Tony Giordano did our very first event, please raise your hand. All right, anybody, keep your hand up if you want to talk about Tony for a minute. Anybody want to talk about Tony? David, will you talk about Tony?
He's great.
Yeah, just tell people. I can tell people, but they haven't heard from you.
I bought his book, I read, it's all on social media, and just staying positive. So, he's looking things in the future. That's what I like about him. He's a futurist. You can get a lot of inspiration from that.
So Tony runs a company called Giordano Global Coaching. It's a little different than the spelling we're used to for Giordano here in Santa Barbara, but he actually was a realtor here in Santa Barbara before he started the company, and has lots of friends here in town. I would say he's a really good coach, and it's worth coming to listen to him. He's our only speaker at that event. We're not going to do a panel discussion, but he's going to do a session on 2023 business planning. So if you haven't done a business plan for next year, I highly recommend that you come. You'll notice there's a Scammy barcode down at the bottom. We're going to put that up on the screen. If you just want to take a picture of that, you'll automatically be registered for that event. And we'd love to have you do that. So I'm just going to pause here for a second and let you do that.